You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, podcast fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Ballet Piano Podcast. It's me, Matt Gregory, and I am here with husband and wife team, the Hobsons. Chris Hobson.
Hello.
And Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
And hashtag David Yow of Instagram is not here.
He's still on annual leave, isn't he?
He's still on annual leave, so we're doing this one without him.
Maybe he had enough of us, you know.
Has he abandoned ship? Does he still like us?
I don't know. Maybe we should ask him.
Hope so.
I'm sure he does. He's worked very hard.
He's very patient, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is.
So in this episode, listeners, we are talking about how we arrange our music that we play for class so it fits for ballet exercises.
With a great difficulty.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
It's a funny one, yeah, because when you know what you're doing, you can do it.
Yeah.
But you've got to get into a very different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of almost like thinking in dancers' phrases and dancers' counts.
Yeah, and I know as well from we have pianists in London that teach sort of courses for ballet pianists, and lots of accomplished pianists will come through the door to learn to play for class, but thinking in those 8-count phrases is very difficult.
Yeah.
And they'll sit down and play some beautiful classical music, but obviously the phrasing is not always right.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky bit, isn't it? It's thinking in 8-count phrases or 8 dancers counts.
Yeah.
I should say.
So we have to have their mind in us. Like we have to forget the fact that we can read the music.
Yeah.
We can read the score. And we understand time signature, but dancers don't. So we have to understand their counting.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like if you take basic example of a 3/4, we count as musicians 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. But a dancer counts that as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and so 8 counts of 3/4 is 8 bars of music.
Yeah.
So that's quite easy and quite straightforward to start off with, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you can go, say we go into a 4/4, so I don't know, like a swingy, a swingy jazz standard, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4 is how we count that. Whereas a dancer usually counts that 1 and a 2,
yeah,
and a 3 and a 4 and a
5
1 and
six,
either 5, 6, 7, 8 or 1 and 2, 3, 4 again.
Yeah.
So that's basically each half a bar. So 2 counts becomes then 1 dancer's count of a 4/4, doesn't it? Which is it's a funny one. Actually, on the website for this episode, we've got some videos that you'll be able to watch as well of us playing our repertoire. But there's also a little PDF document that we've put out there before. I'll link to it again of just how dancers' counts sit in with musicians' counts as well, because it's probably easy as well for some people to look at it and visualize that as opposed to listening to me singing and clicking and looking at the microphone as if it's a camera. So when you've got these dancers counts and musicians counts, which could be an hours long episode in itself, couldn't it? That in different ways. I'm sure we'll touch on that at some point. It's then making your repertoire what we call square, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and more often than not, it's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for a dancer, and then a second lot of 8, second phrase of 8, third lot of 8, fourth lots of 8. So it's generally in 8 dancers counts.
Yeah.
And that's how you sort of have to think of your music. And it's something that you really get used to the feel of the more you do it. Don't
Yes.
you?
Definitely.
You can sort of feel where the end of the 7/8, the end of the phrase is coming, and where you have to either go to a B section or repeat it.
But if you're new and you're not used to that, like I was saying, I think in the previous episode, I used to go home and physically write out this. I've still got a file somewhere. It might be in one of the boxes I could go that I haven't unpacked yet. We moved house nearly 9 months ago, and I've still got boxes I haven't unpacked, but files of stuff where it was just my handwritten scrawl for getting me through exercise. And I had classes and classes worth of stuff at one point that I'd written out.
Yeah, I had the same, yeah.
You can start off with, a lot of jazz standards are very square, aren't they? So they're going to be usually 32 bars long. So if you want to play, I don't know, Lover Man, let's say, for a tondu, you don't have to do anything to that. That just comes down to you playing it, doesn't it? And having fun with it. Whereas if you're going to play some Andrew Lloyd Webber or some Bernstein, No,
Bernstein's.
Bernstein's difficult, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
nothing is going to be in what we call this square phrase.
Yeah.
It's like, Matt, you do Maria, don't you?
I heard Maria on, I mean, obviously I know it, but I'd heard it on the radio or on some sort of TV show. And I thought that works really well for a tondo. Or a slow tondo or a fondo or something. Grab the music out. And then I realized, okay, the melody wants to move on before the dancer wants to move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So every sort of third bar, you're adding a bar. You're adding that 7/8 every time.
Yeah.
To make it what we call square.
Yeah.
Because I'm a
Yes.
is what it wants to do.
Yeah.
But you just have to sort of repeat your
You've got
last
to add
bar
in that 7/8,
Yeah.
have you?
each time.
And you always do like a little echo, and then move on to the next
And
phrase.
then the melody moves on.
Suddenly
So
the name.
that's something that I do. And I'm adding a bar every 3 to make it square. But it's quite nice because for a slow tondo or a fondo, it's quite, in terms of the feel of it, it's quite relaxed, and so it works for that. And adding that little bar, it doesn't feel like you're filling. It feels natural.
Yeah.
So that's like you adding few counts to make it as 8 bars phrase. But sometimes like some other things that it's 8 bar phrases, but 8 bars times 3. The music finishes, and then most of the case you want 8 bars times 4, so you have to add entire 8 bar to the 8 bar times 3 to complete as a 8 bars 4, so which is a big square. So that's how we make it square as well. By adding a whole phrase. As well. Does it make sense?
Yes,
definitely.
Oh, then you've got like the intermezzo from Carmen, the E flat one, which is, I think, it's a phrase of 8 in dancers counts, and then a phrase of 12. So if you're going to do it for class, unless your teacher specifically choreographed it to those counts, you need to make it an 8 and an 8. So you've got to chop out these special couple of bars. Sometimes.
Like you play singles this, right?
Yes, that's
not
one.
square.
No,
I don't know how you make it square. Maybe how you make it and how I make it might be different.
Well, I'll tell you, how about this? You can record your version, Akiko. Matt, you can record your version. I will put them on this episode webpage on balletpianopodcast.com, and you can hear 2 different pianists, different arrangements of Schindler's List.
And I also play it in 3 as well.
Yeah.
So that also makes it interesting.
That's one of the first
and
ones.
do 3 in 3 as well.
Is that one of the first things you learn as a ballet pianist about arranging your repertoire? Is all these beautiful 4/4s that you get in musical theatre and ballads and all that sort of stuff easily transfer over to a 3/4?
Yes.
And then I realised, when you hear, I was listening to Out of Africa last night, preparing for a different episode of the podcast I was thinking about. Completely forgot that it was in 4/4 because I've played it in 3/4 for so long. Best part of a decade. And now I was listening to it last night, and I was still trying to count in 3 in my head while I was listening to it.
Well, on the CD that we have coming out,
what's that CD
soon,
called, Matt? Sorry.
Oh, you'll have to tell me.
Is it the Ballet Class Volume 1?
That's the one.
That's on Mother Plugger.
Yeah. Well, I play Danny Boy on that, and I always play it in 3.
Me too.
For class.
Yeah.
But for the CD, I don't know whether you noticed, it's in 4.
It's in 4, yeah.
And I don't know why I did that. It's because it's for the développé exercise as opposed to the adage or something. And I just thought for développés, it could be nice that it's, square.
It's on 4s,
as opposed to a 3.
See, then it comes down to personal preference, because I play Danny Boy every now and then, but I don't play it on a 3.
Yeah.
I always play it on a 4. That's, that's
really?
always one of my go-to 4/4, lyrical pieces.
And I'm going to say something controversial here.
Go on.
But Bohemian Rhapsody in a 3. I've tried it, and for me,
you're not a fan, are you?
Not
you don't like it.
Well, that's your favorite tune.
I play it in 4, but in 3, for me, I don't do it.
It does work when Chris plays.
Well, I think it's each to their own, though. And if we all play, like we were saying, if we all play the same, what's the point then? Because we all lose our individuality, don't we? That's the same as only having, one amazing violinist or pianist that caters for every concert in the world.
Maybe because it sounds better when you play it. I mean, when I do it, it probably just sounds a little tripe?
I don't think so. Screw off, Matthew.
But I play Moon River in a sort of slow 4/12/80 feel.
Right.
Oh, nice.
If someone says, "Okay, we're going to do a cool down or a warm down,"
Yeah.
I play Moon River, but in like a 12/8 feel. Because it feels slow and bluesy.
So I know I'm looking at you, Matt. I was just singing through Moon River in a 12/8 in my head, thinking, "Oh yes," and then maybe we could put a key change in at the end there. That's a big one, though, isn't it? So, like, not just how you arrange your repertoire, but how you play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there was a question about this in one of the Q&As, and it's true. Can you tell the pianist in the other room, not particularly by the repertoire that they're playing, although that's very obvious sometimes, but by their style?
Yeah.
And we've all got our own sort of unique and individual style, haven't we?
Everybody changes, the textures up of your left hand, and I think you have to, depending on what the exercise is doing. If the dancers are doing something sort of fleeting, fast footwork, I'll play the theme from Appalachian Spring.
Yeah,
but I'll just play it in octaves and thirds, high up on the piano. I won't even play anything low. And then they're like, and it sort of matches what the footwork is doing.
God,
but then sometimes I do play some sort of big left hand as well, depending on what's going on.
And it also
then I
depends
also
on
play
what
that
day.
in three, play it for adage as well.
Yeah.
But then play it for a fast jump.
It depends on the day of the week, doesn't it? And how many classes you've done that day.
Yeah, but if you get stuck with the idea, key change is always the way forward, isn't it, Chris?
If you can't get out of it, yes.
So,
have you ever been sitting there, got halfway through a piece of music, and suddenly realised you've played an extra beat or cut an extra beat out?
I once, it was like a stretchy thing, and then I was told to play something nice. And I didn't even think and studied yesterday.
The Beatles.
Beatles.
Yeah. Possibly one of the most unsquare things along
And
with
yes.
Sondheim and Bernstein.
Yeah, and then it's quite, because it's so well-known music, it's quite difficult to fix into square on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I probably had a panic phase, but somehow, because it was a stretch kind of a music anyway, so everybody sang along and it was kind of okay in the end by being not square, but that was a biggest to me.
You can come across, you sometimes feel a bit of an idiot, don't you, when you've been doing I mean, now I don't actually. Now I'll just hold my hands up, and I could even stop an exercise sometimes because it's gone so far wrong, and I'll just go, really sorry, totally my bad. I screwed that up.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're new, that you've got the pressure of playing the right music, playing it at the right tempo, the right feel, doing everything right, and then to accidentally add that bar in or beat out, I remember being scared by that and doing it a few times, and you want the ground to eat you up sometimes, don't you? It's difficult.
Yeah.
Whenever a teacher says a free stretch that's not choreographed, I use that as my opportunity to play everything that isn't square.
Yeah.
Already.
Because they're just doing it by themselves. It's not set really. Yeah. And I just go into sort of cocktail piano in the background while they're having a little stretch.
I'll have a gin and tonic, please, Matthew.
But I've also done things sort of really just autopilot. I'll be playing something in 4 for a stretch, and where they prepare and put the leg on the bar for the second side. I'll go into 3. I've done that before by mistake.
You can sort of get away with that depending on how you do it as well, can't you?
Yeah, and the repertoire you play, whether you've put it into 3 or 4, it's so in your fingers.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just go there. If I'm playing things in the same key as well, the melody will go to a different tune. Without realizing it.
This is not quite on arranging your repertoire, but you've maybe got a couple of tunes lined up in your head. You go, okay, right, that's going to work for the first side. That's going to work for the second side. And then you get to the second side and you get confused, and then you play the first tune again by accident.
Yes, or just goes to completely different tune than you thought.
Do you know what about this as well? When a teacher's set an exercise and it's not square, but you don't realize it's not square at the time. I'm not talking about, say, because there's some teachers around who, instead of wanting, say, 4 phrases of 8 for the first side and 4 phrases of 8 for the second side, or 3 phrases of 8 and 3 phrases of 8. That's, you can work around that just by using your ears and watching them. But if you've got a teacher who's not really musical, who will do 7.5 phrases of 8, for example, or something, and
well, you just play square and then let them adjust.
Yeah, hope for the best.
Yeah. Keep your eye on what the dancers are doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, and the teacher will look at me and say, "Is that right?"
Yeah. And you can say, well, yes, it is right, but you might want to add an extra 4 bars on it, 4 counts on, to to square it off. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
Teachers, does that fit? Does that fit? It's like, well, the beauty of live music is I'll make it fit.
We are great for you. We will make you fit. We will make it fit.
Yeah.
That could have been a bad bit of innuendo there, but yeah, we will make everything fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just played class on Tuesday for the first time in a studio since 5 months ago, and the teacher was like, "Oh, this is such a luxury having live music as opposed to pre-recorded on Zoom," because he always likes to put a balance on and then go second side. And when the music runs out, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the beauties of live music. Arranging as you go.
Yeah.
And you are arranging because you don't know how long your balance is going to be or what you're going to play for your balance. So you are arranging your music as you go.
Definitely. I think going back to the arranging, what we were saying before, and cuts out or adding things in, it's doing it so that if a dancer or whoever is listening to it, they don't quite realize that you've chopped out a bar or you've chopped out a phrase. So it's almost still people are singing along and not quite knowing why, say, their lyrics aren't quite with your melody, but it still works. People don't realize. So I think for me, that's the best bit of making it work is people can not know that you've butchered up a tune, because otherwise it's there's some stuff, some Sondheim stuff and some Bernstein stuff that we want to play in class that I've tried so many different ways of doing it. I've just given up because it loses the magic of it. If you're arranging it and then you feel like you've lost the magic of it, either give up and abandon it forever or start afresh maybe the next day. If you're sitting at home and working out your arrangements pre-class.
But don't you feel like, some of the music, you made it square and you played it so long being square and you forget the original beautiful version of it. And then you listen to the radio sometimes and then, it was like this, wasn't it?
You only remember your ballet arrangement of
that
it's
very
tune.
sad. Yeah. The most nicest bit is missing,
Yeah, because you always have to cobble out like these 2 counts or 2 bars, don't you? Where it's this beautiful transition, to the relative minor, but via this incredibly complex chord progression to get there. You just got to sadly chop out the chord progression. Mr. Bernstein, I'm sorry.
I was very sad the other day. I listened to the meditation of Thais, and the end of it, I was like, I haven't had this bit for a long time. I haven't played this bit for a long time.
Oh yes.
I can't even think of how the ending goes at the moment. That shows
like it's like a very, very end of the violin goes like, it was sad.
It doesn't happen like that when we play it, does it?
No, it just finish after 8 counts.
Some of the beauty of some music is that it's in a 10 count phrase, let's say, and you've got to just chop 2 bars off. Say it's an extended ending or something, but to make it square, you've got to lose 2 bars or whatever.
And there's quite a lot of tunes as well that will finish. I think She's one of them from memory, the Elvis Costello one that we've referenced already, but where the last note of the phrase of where you would come back to the tonic would be on effectively bar 9 of that phrase. So if the dancers have already finished on count 8 and that's the end of it, you've got this extra bar on the end there. So you've got to subconsciously somehow make it work. And sometimes teachers don't mind you adding this little extra bar on just because it's the way the melody finishes. And then I've played for some teachers and ballet masters who do not want that and get very annoyed with that. And he's like, no, you added on an extra bar. So I didn't. I played 1 chord on the first beat. So technically I didn't add on, but I understand what they mean, because technically I'm finishing a bar late then. So it's working your way around that sometimes as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But all of those different things and more, you can you can look on our website to see all of our arrangements or some of our arrangements, and you can hear some fantastic arrangements on Ballet Class Volume 1, giving it the big sell today because now it is out on iTunes, as I'm sure you've seen on our social medias, and if you subscribe to our emails, you've definitely seen them on there. So I hope you're enjoying that, and please do let us have some feedback.
And if you're enjoying this episode, please go on to the Apple podcast, give us a like, give us a subscribe, download us, tell all your ballet friends, and give us a little review. And so that's us for this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.